EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a special 10 a.m. edition here to kick off the week on a Monday edition of Birds 365. Welcome in. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen. John, a little later start today, but we're here like always for a 2-hour show. How you doing on this Monday morning, brother?
Getting through. Appreciate everybody sticking around. Had to back things up a little this morning, but right back into it. Another OTA week. Eagles will be on the field today, tomorrow, Thursday. The big playground build, the annual playground build is Wednesday. So a lot of things happening on Eagles land, but the headliners, obviously, Bryce Huff.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, John, Bryce Huff deal broke Friday after our show. We did have a little bit of a segment on Friday, but not much to talk about it. We'll kind of dive into that this morning. We will give the clarification on that. I said to John pre-show, there was a little bit of fake news around the Bryce Huff deal. So we'll clarify and give you the truth here on Birds 365 of what that deal meant and what the ramifications, both good and bad, are for that. The business of June 1, everybody. It's June 2nd today. For those who are unaware, hope everybody had a good start to their June. I can't believe it's already June, but June 1 is a big day in the NFL world. As John wrote on Sports Illustrated, it's a demarcation line. John, June 1 has officially passed. What does that mean for the Eagles when that comes to mind? Just to give everybody just a brief, what to expect now post June 1 for the Birds?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of misinformation, as you mentioned, with not only Bryce Huff, but also Darius Slay and James Bradberry, because they were the two post June 1st designations for the Eagles as sort of salary cap casualties. Number one, I think a lot of people don't understand. Well, you make those moves early, and sometimes you do it as a favor to the players and let them get an early shot at free agency. With Slay, obviously, he's able to get a big deal with Pittsburgh, and he did a lot for this team, so that's part of it. And then the standpoint of just the raw numbers, I think, what's most misunderstood is you'll see the Eagles got whatever, it was about $6.2 or $6.3 million in cap space, which is technically true. Got about 4.3, I think, for Slay, 2.1 for Bradberry. Now, the problem is they have what's called the top 51 rule in the offseason. So the top 51 salaries, cap salaries, count against the cap in the offseason, and you have to be cap compliant at all times. So as Slay and Bradberry drop off today, that means two players, numbers 52 and 53, are elevated. And number 52 and 53 on the Eagles now are Moro Ajomo, who's got a cap number of $1.049 million. Anaya Smith, $1.043 million. So basically, when you're talking about effective cap space, you have to add the savings of Slay and Bradberry, and then take off Ajomo and Smith's numbers. So it's more like essentially it's Slay's number. You're getting more like 4.2, 4.3 million of cap space. And I think a lot of people don't get that back end. Anytime you lose two that are in the top 51, two get elevated. So now 53, for instance, is Jeremiah Trotter Jr. So if they do something else, and they will be doing something else, they'll be trading Bryce Huff, which will likely be finalized today. Trotter goes up as well. So the same thing happens there with the cap savings.
A lot of moving parts, John, on that.
Yeah. So again, the Eagles are very good with the cap. You know what? I hesitate to say, don't worry about it versus try to educate as many people as possible. But you do have to remember the back end of the top 51 cutoff. So when someone says they saved 4 point whatever million, well, no, they didn't. They saved the difference between the Slay number and the elevation number of that guy at the back end of the roster, if that makes sense. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, it's a little confusing, but it makes some sense. The whole thing is confusing in the NFL world. John, I want to move into, and you mentioned him there, but I do want to talk about Bryce Huff. All right, we didn't have a chance to kind of lay it out fully on Birds 365, so I want to get clarification. I want to get your thoughts on the deal. I want to get your thoughts on the edge rusher room post Bryce Huff, what it means for the Birds. Are they going to look to acquire somebody? Does it mean Jahad Campbell is not playing off-ball linebacker? We'll talk about some of those things. Let me hit the super chat. We're starting the week off good from Jason A-Team here, and the super chat's about Bryce Huff, so we'll go right to it. Jason A-Team, $50. Wow, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Morning, JAKIB fan. J-Mac and Z, Howie is elite. Starting my vacation week off right with Bryce Huff gone. Eagles fans celebrated all weekend. I will be celebrating even more. Does this give us a chance for another player somewhere? Thank you for the super chat, A-Team. He was partying all weekend, John, at the departure of Bryce Huff.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm the guy who got shat on for years, telling a lot of Eagles fans that Howie Roseman was one of the best GMs in football. So, yeah, I'm on the ground floor of that. This is not, his crowning moment. This is not where you, as I explained, you should be giving Howie Roseman his flowers. This is a nice sort of recovery from a bad decision. This is not, there will be plenty of opportunities where you will get to say, hey, that's a good move by Howie Roseman. This is not, he's paying Bryce Huff $9 million to go play for the San Francisco 49ers. That's what's happened. That's what happened. And he got a middling asset and about $2.4 million of cap relief for $9 million. This is not the crowning achievement of Howie Roseman. This is the rare mistake of Howie Roseman. And it has to do more with evaluation. As I said, it's not a Bryce Johnston mistake because the contract is at a point where you can get out of it without terrible difficulties because of the way they manipulate roster bonuses versus base salaries. So essentially they're paying $9 million of what's guaranteed to Huff this season. San Francisco's paying $7.75 million. So the 49ers, and that's another thing. Remember, yeah, they're coming off a bad season, but they had a crap load of injuries. What happens if the 49ers turn into a contender again, which is not crazy? And all of a sudden, Bryce Huff is back with the guy who made him a $17 million player because Robert Saleh is back in San Francisco. And he's going to use Bryce Huff in the way Bryce Huff is comfortable with versus the way he was used here, which is, a more what was being asked of him was be a more well-rounded player, set the edge, drop in coverage, rush the passer, and he couldn't do it. And Vic made that assessment, and the Eagles went in a different direction. But make no mistake about it, Jason. They're paying this guy $9 million to play for the San Francisco 49ers. This is not the crowning achievement of Howie Roseman. This is the rare mistake of Howie Roseman.
Well, good recovery for Howie, but good context there from Johnny Mac. We're going to dive into that some more here. John, I do want to touch on real quick just what the update for today for the Eagles is. They have OTAs this week. Alfredo checks in. He says, no reporters at OTAs today. That's correct, Alfredo. No reporters at OTAs today. I believe it'll be tomorrow, John, that you guys have access to the OTA.
Yeah, most likely 99%. But
not confirmed, as you can tell, but should be tomorrow. So they're today, they're tomorrow, and then what's their other day this week, John? Thursday? They're off Wednesday?
Thursday.
Okay, so they're off Wednesday and Friday.
They're doing a charity thing. They do that playground build every year.
That's right.
And they're doing that on Wednesday.
Yep, so that's the update for the week. John, I want to dive back into Bryce Huff there. John, and before I get your take on just kind of what the football ramifications outside of the money ramifications of it, of moving on from Bryce Huff, it was originally talked about and reported that they cleared up $15 million of cap space. That's what Field Yates put out. A lot of people ran with it. I ran with it. I thought that was the truth when I saw a guy like Field Yates put it out. Is that not the truth? Bring clarity to what that means, because many people saw that $15 million cap space savings number for this year. And I, me included, I fell for it. I took the bait. Was I wrong to take that bait? Bring clarity to that, please, Joe.
Yeah, they're not getting 15 million in cap space. And Field is very good. He's just misinterpreted the contract and what the Eagles do. And part of the reason, because they turn, again, one of the reasons they do what they do is to lower salary cap numbers early on in the process. They do that by creating roster bonuses instead of base salary. So in essence, when Bryce Huff signed, his salary was very minimal in year 2, but he had this massive roster bonus. And to facilitate the trade, the Eagles turned that roster bonus in the base salary, restructured the deal, which obviously Bryce Huff was okay with because he was getting out of here. And by doing that, they could split it. Eagles paying a little bit more, 9.05 million per the 7.75 million, I believe, of San Francisco. So they're sort of splitting that 17 million. And then essentially, it was structured as a 2-year deal anyway, as most contracts are with the Eagles. And so essentially San Francisco gets a 3rd-year $17 million option on Bryce Huff, which they're unlikely to pick up, to say the least. But from the standpoint of the cap savings, yeah, he just misunderstood it, and it's really far less. And I think everyone sort of opened their eyes and said, wow, that's when all the flowers started to come in for Howie. And it just wasn't true. So they get minimal cap relief, 2.3 or 2.4 million. And they get rid of the player and they get a mid-round pick. My guess is it's going to be 5th round. We'll see as it becomes official. Maybe they can get a condition on it. I doubt it. But we'll see how that shakes out. But he wasn't a fit for Vic Fangio. And you can go the James Bradbury route, or you can go what they did, the way they did. It is sort of breaking protocol for the Eagles to pay for someone else to play for someone else, but that's the penalty for a misevaluation of a big contract.
So much less than the 15 million that we originally thought. As John pointed out, they're just a little over 2.5 million. It sounds like. John, what does that mean cap wise? Do you think they will make a move off this, or is this simply they wanted to get Bryce Huff off the books? They found a team willing to tango. It takes 2 to tango, and they moved him off the books. Here is that all you think this is?
Yeah, it's more about Huff, getting Huff off the books, and making the best of a poor situation from that standpoint. Because again, he wasn't in the plans of Vic Fangio, so yeah, it's not about and I think that happens too often. One move. And again, the Eagles think about cap stuff in 3-year increments. So, I get everybody's about immediacy and everybody's thinking right now. Everybody's thinking Trey Hendrickson, yada, yada, yada. It's never about just, we're doing this because we're going to do this. I shouldn't say never, but it's very rarely about that. In this instance, it's not about adding it to, they're not doing this to add another player. Now, that doesn't preclude them, as I've said, as you go through the offseason, and probably, June 10th is minicamp next week. Vic will make the assessment, do I have enough? And if he says no, they'll look in other directions. It's probably still not going to be a Trey Hendrickson, TJ Watt type. But desperation fuels different things, but I find it hard to believe that this team is going to be desperate. So would they add a veteran piece that's more accomplished? Potentially. It's not going to be a $30 million player. I mean, you can go all the way back to the Myles Garrett clickbait stuff. Howie said it, we're just not in a financial position to do that. Of course, they want them. They want everybody. They want every good player. But right now, they're not in a financial position. They're not in a financial position to get Trey Hendrickson or TJ Watt at $30 million plus. Could they add somebody lesser? Sure.
I
And
don't
they
know what a
probably
guy
should.
lesser would be, right? Like, I mean, we are June 2nd. You know, how many guys are out there that are kind of the middle of the road?
Well, there's,
don't
I
know.
mean, if you think about where the Eagles are, and they're obviously a legit Super Bowl contender, the disrespectful nature of the national media, PFF rated them still as the best roster in football last week. So the Super Bowl window is open. And that's when, in theory, potentially you'd want to go after maybe a guy who can get you over the top, a Von Miller type, for instance, who's older, and typically you would say, well, no, the Eagles don't want that type of player. But in this instance, when they're so close, Jadeveon Clowney's out there, I believe. There's not a lot of guys, but there are guys who could help. And then you have the trade route, the first time the CJ route. So, maybe there's a ascending player who's blocked somewhere else and you're willing to go the trade route to get them that way. So, in-house, I think it's more about Zach Baun and Jahad Campbell, and sort of a different type of philosophy and different type of role, which I wrote about on SI.com. Like, I think Eagles fans are hyper focused because that's all they've seen. Wide nine, go rush the passer, Jim Schwartz going all the way back to Jim Washburn. Wide nine, which is a technique, not a scheme, by the way. And everybody uses it, and the Eagles will still use it at times. But it's of much less importance with Vic Fangio. And you might have to start thinking about some more unconventional ways of getting edge rushing here. And that's, to have two linebackers like Zach Baun and Jahad Campbell, one proven, one projection, but very talented. The whole philosophy with Vic Fangio's defensive scheme is to make the quarterback sort of hesitate post snap, just a little tick, try to figure out what's going on. Different coverages, different rushes, who's rushing, who's not rushing. So maybe you use Zach Baun and Jahad Campbell when he's healthy as sort of interchangeable parts. And if you think about what Vic wants, coverage players, they can cover, but they can also rush. Maybe goes about it that way. And if you're a quarterback thinking, all right, who's coming on this play? Is it Baun or is it Campbell? And the other one drops. So you might cause some of that confusion. And then you might have to play Jalen Carter outside on occasion a little bit more. Or you can cross your fingers and hope Azeez Ojulari and Josh Uche, find their highest points when Josh was, his 11th sack season, or maybe Azeez can stay healthy and play 17 games. And maybe that works out. Maybe Jalix Hunt turns into a star in year 2. Maybe that works out. But I think they have enough avenues to where you can at least project some improvements, that they won't be desperate. But man, if Vic walks into Howie's office and says, yeah, this ain't good enough, that's going to carry a lot of weight.
Yeah. We're going to see what they end up doing there. A lot of moving parts now, John, at the edge after Bryce Huff is gone now. I don't think we all expected Bryce to be a big part of it, but it certainly does open up a lot of questions, as you just kind of touched on, with a lot of different players, Jahad Campbell and Vaughn and all those different moving parts. The other thing, going back to the Bryce Huff contract, is does it kind of open up any leeway, John, for extensions for guys that are, now? I'm talking Jordan Davis. I'm talking Reed Blankenship. I'm talking some of those guys. Maybe the business in-house becomes a little easier getting that contract off the books. Do you see that at all?
Yeah, a little bit. They got a little bit of money back. So they've been very focused on cash over cap for getting ready for, and it already started with Cam Jurgens. But next year with Jalen Carter, obviously, is imposed. That's the imposing one. And potentially Nolan Smith as well. And then down the road, you have Cooper and Quinyon 2 years down the road. So that's when I talk about, it's not about immediacy. It's a longer term plan. And certainly those guys are in it. Short term, Reed's the next guy. I'm a little surprised he's not done already. And yeah, that should help a little bit when it comes to getting him done, which it'll get done. Just a matter of when.
Yeah. John, what's your prediction on what they end up doing here at the edge rusher room? Because it's a big hole. I mean, you got bodies there, but there's a lot of projection on a lot of fronts, whether you have the guys in the room playing that position, whether you have Campbell playing that position. I mean, there's a lot of question marks there. What would you do if you were Howie Roseman for this room?
Well, I think I would personally, I'd be more comfortable with a more proven commodity. But I think the Eagles are confident in Vic and Jeremiah Washburn and their developmental process. And there's enough avenues that one or two, I think, from their philosophy, not that every single one of them is going to hit, but that one or two might hit. And then all of a sudden you're fine. So I think they're going to stay that route. But yeah, I'd be more comfortable with a more proven commodity. But it is a 36-year-old edge rusher or a the best journeyman in the history of football, Jadeveon Clowney, because he's a good player, but he moves around from year to year to year. Is that better than a young kid who's getting better, and Jalix Hunt, who's cheap? I don't know. I don't think it is. So, the easy thing is, if you get a future Hall of Famer like TJ Watt, well, I mean, I just don't think that's realistic. I don't think Trey Hendrickson is realistic.
What about a guy like a Trayvon Walker? I know they picked up the 5th-year option, or somebody like that in that category. Is that too close to a deal too? Because if you trade for him, you're probably going to have to put the big contract on the end of it too.
Exactly. Well, and plus, I've never understood, other than Jacksonville's not a very good organization, why they would want to move on from Trayvon Walker. I never understood that. So
he's had double-digit sacks, I think, twice in 3 years, right?
Yeah. Still, it's funny that's a disappointment because he was the number 1 overall pick. That's the only reason that's a disappointment. But yeah, I never understood that because that was brought up earlier in the offseason. Well, Jacksonville might trade Trayvon Walker. And I said on the show, I said, why? He's still under contract. Why are they going to trade him? Other than they're just dumb. Sorry, Tony Khan, but they're not that dumb. And they picked up his option, and yeah, I just don't see him as a viable avenue. Would I like him? Yeah, sure.
Sounds like slim pickings that are out there, John. I mean, it's not like there's a bunch of options here. It's almost like if the guys you have in the room don't work out well, there's a good chance that this is an issue.
Well, there's always guys. Now the problem is, and I can do some research. maybe that'll be my project this week to find that guy, the CJ Gardner-Johnson guy. Now, the Eagles needed a safety at the time. CJ was playing nickelback for New Orleans. Nobody projected CJ Gardner-Johnson to be a safety at the time. And the Eagles traded for him, and it worked out well for 1 year, traded him. He signed elsewhere because he balked at the offer, brought him back, worked out again, traded him. But when he was here, I think everybody acknowledges, a little bit high maintenance, but he produced at a high level. And my point being, all the way back to the trade, nobody had CJ on their radar. That's why they have a pro personnel department to unearth these kind of guys who are, maybe they're in their current situation, entering their final year of their rookie contract, and that team knows, well, we're not going to bring him back because he's blocked here. So, might be a name we're not thinking about, other than the constant big names, which are obviously on the forefront of most people's minds. And when you talk about Hendrickson because he's upset with his contract, and you talk about Watt because he's upset with his contract, well, they're not going to magically not be upset with their contract to play with Philadelphia. Maybe it's a little bit better because it's a legitimate Super Bowl contender, but they want to get paid what they think their value is, which is $30+ million. In the case of Walker, a big name, but a lesser big name, but a big name. Again, it doesn't make sense from Jacksonville's standpoint. Unless you want to give them a first-round pick, maybe they'll think about it.
It's going to be a big issue unless the guys that are in the room step up and do what Vic Fangio needs them to do. Or else I don't see the solution being outside the locker room right now to come in and just fix this. I don't see it. Now, I don't know. Maybe it's not as big of an issue as we're making it out to be on Birds 365. Maybe the edge rushing crew is not as bad.
Well, it's not proven. It's not proven.
Right. Well, last year's linebacker room, again, that's more of an exception than the rule, but still exists, so maybe there's a little bit of that going on here. But, I get flashes to like 2023 where you go into the season uncertain at safety, then you try and make a trade for a Kevin Byard late in the year and it just doesn't work, falls flat on your face. Now, I'm not saying this is the same situation, but it's not that easy to fix a position late in the year. It's not.
No, certainly later. I mean, in season, it's really difficult. I mean, there's a difference between, to me, trading for somebody in training camp where you at least, or even at the initial cutdown, like they got CJ, and then you have a whole season to kind of figure it out versus, trade deadline, Kevin Byard type move. That's difficult. And it generally doesn't turn out to be that big of a deal. But and Kevin played pretty well last season with a bad team, but played pretty well individually. And if he had a whole training camp and off season, who knows how it would have worked. Although, Sean Desai probably not ready to be a defensive coordinator. I think it's fair to say that. So that factored into it as well. So a lot of things, but yeah, I think, they're going to roll the dice with what they have. And look, there's no demonstrated performance and there's a lot of uncertainty.
Do you think they are worse off after the Bryce Huff trade, football wise?
Well, yes and no. Yes, from the standpoint of, look, I think he's their, at worst, second best pure pass rusher. And by the way, and I know people balk at that. Don't listen to me. Listen to Brandon Graham. He was on Ross Tucker's podcast. Listen to that interview. Brandon explains it, and that comes from more heft than me. It's a wide nine guy. And he flat out said, I know he can rush. And that's what Howie said. But that's all he can do. And Vic's not going to use that type of player. Just doesn't like it. That's a little bit closed-minded in my estimation. I rarely criticize Vic Fangio, but that's a little bit closed-minded. I understand wanting. Of course, I'd rather have a more well-rounded player. Of course, everybody would, but you have to use what you have until you get that player. And maybe JAKIB Campbell turns out to be that player.
Is Vic Fangio supposed to speak this week?
We don't have the schedule yet, but yeah, he should be.
Would you presume that he will?
I presume that he will. Yes, and he'll
Curious to hear. Yeah,
he's very honest. But you saw it early in training camp. Is like, Vic, he's not going to throw people under the bus, but he was very clear that he was not happy with the way Bryce Huff was progressing as a 3-down player. Now, also, I think the injuries were a big part of it. And I get frustrated when people ignore them. The guy did have surgery on his wrist, missed a number of games, came back, hurt his shoulder, which I think people forget as well. So the injuries kind of played into it as well. But on this team right now, just as a pure pass rusher, I don't want to go that far. You could argue he's the best pure pass rusher because Nolan was better, but he did it for a short period of time. Not that he did it for a longer period of time, just a long period of time, just a longer period of time. But he's a one-trick pony. I've made the comparison that he's a reliever. He's a closer in baseball versus the starter with 4 pitches. And Vic wants the guy with 4 pitches.
Right.
Which is fine, but until you find that guy, utilize what you have. That's my argument. But it was pretty clear. It works both ways. He was disappointed and upset the way things went, so he didn't want to be here. And when you get to that point where you got a defensive coordinator that doesn't want the guy, and he doesn't want to be here, it's probably best to tear the Band-Aid off, which is what the Eagles did. So for that, I give them credit for. But in a perfect world, which it's not, he could have helped. But not in the non-perfect world of what was set up here in Philadelphia, he was not going to be able to help. So it's kind of I'm not criticizing the question, but it's kind of like he's going to help San Francisco. He is. He is. Very confident in saying that. He is.
Well, Saleh did get double-digit sacks out of him twice, I believe.
Yeah.
So
very upset when he left, wanted to keep him. And remember, they have big-time pass rushers. They have first-round picks, and he still Saleh wanted to keep him. He's gonna help San Francisco. But I'm not going to criticize the Eagles when he does help San Francisco because he wasn't going to do the same thing here. That's another thing that I think fans, again, I try to point out, no vacuums. Each situation is different. Most notable with quarterbacks. If quarterbacks are in a shitty situation, they're screwed. Well, the same thing with other players. And he's now going to be in a situation that will take advantage of what he does well. So he's probably going to look better. In a situation where you're looking for set the edge, be a flat defender in coverage, and go rush the passer. Not a good fit. Not a good fit.
Man, it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. I got some questions on JAKIB Campbell here. Now, John, a lot of pushback on what you're saying here in the chat, which is common. All right, and that's okay. But I do want to address one thing and just your take on it.
It is common.
Brandon Howard says, number 1 defense, and you're criticizing Vic's decision-making. Now, I don't know if that's exactly what you did. I didn't really take it that way.
First of all, I have lauded Vic Fangio day in and day out. I've called him the best defensive coordinator. He is not a god. He is a human being. Howie Roseman. I've said pretty consistently, best general manager in football. That doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. There is not the day there is a coach or a player that I don't question is the day I'm not doing it right, because nobody's perfect. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. Zander does this show with me every day. Am I a Vic Fangio guy, Zander?
Yeah, you're a Vic Fangio guy. That's for sure.
Does that freaking mean I'm going to say he gets 100% right? I just explained it. I get what he wants. All coaches want a certain scheme. They come in with a certain scheme. You know, Kevin Patullo was talking about this when he was asked about, you know, his sort of foundational principles on offense, and he brought up Chan Gailey as being maybe the most important moment of his coaching career. And that was the worst team he was ever on, because they lost their starting quarterback. They lost their backup quarterback. They had to go to Tyler Thigpen. And Chan Gailey the next day walked in, and Chan Gailey had a blank whiteboard and said, all right, guys, we got to build a whole new offense to better utilize what Tyler Thigpen could do. And they did a pretty damn good job. Still had a shitty season, but everything went up offensively. And it always stuck with Kevin Patullo. And that's why I love Chan Gailey so much, because it wasn't about, all right, this is what we do. We'll just put Tyler Thigpen in and do exactly what we did before. Same thing happened with the Eagles and John DeFilippo and Frank Reich, and then the shift from Carson Wentz to Nick Foles and the run to Super Bowl 52. That's what good coaches do. They manipulate things to take advantage of the talent they have. Not that they want, believe me, Chan Gailey and everybody else, and Kevin was just a quality control guy at the time, but everybody else in Kansas City didn't want to play Tyler Thigpen. He was the third string quarterback. But they built an offense the best they could to help him, and they did a pretty good job. So everybody's got their template of what they want, but you can't get everything you want at all times. So you got to take advantage of what you have. That's it.
Bryce Huff's officially gone. John, if I put the over-under for him next year at, what do we want to put it at? 6.5 sacks? Is that too high? Is that too low? 6.5 sacks for Bryce Huff in San Francisco. Are you smashing the over on that, Johnny Mac?
I am smashing the over on that. I am smashing, and Eagles fans are going to be pissed by it. But it's not going to.
Would you smash it over if I went 8.5?
No.
Okay,
but I would.
So
I
there's
would.
the sweet spot. 6.5.
I would. I would. It wouldn't shock me. You know, got to see how it. But I mean, Robert Saleh is already. But Robert Saleh loves the guy.
Yeah, he does. He got a lot out of him in New York. Robert Saleh is a good defensive guy too. Very good.
He is. But he uses a different scheme, and he's going to allow him to rush the passer. You know?
Bryce Huff, 7.5 sacks in San Francisco.
Well, the worst thing is if they're in the playoffs and he's getting
on their way to an NFC title game. You got to be kidding me! Holy moly!
That'll go over well, and you're paying them to play for him. That'll go over well. Wait
Eagles,
for those stories.
49ers NFC Championship game this year, and Bryce Hufflepuff will have a nothing burger in that game. We'll see.
Well, he probably will have a nothing burger against the Eagles because
of the tackles. Yeah,
and Jordan Mailata. So you probably don't have to be concerned about that.
Yeah, no.
About him getting sacks.
All right. So what is your opinion? I'm liking you giving some of your opinions here. I know a lot of times you're reporting, which is all good as well. But what's your opinion on what Jahad Campbell's going to be then this year? Do you see them putting him on the edge and rushing the passer more with Jahad Campbell than you maybe originally thought, or how is your thought process on what he's going to be changed or developed so far this
Well, I
offseason?
mean, it's so difficult with him because he's not healthy, man. We got to see when he's healthy and when
Right.
he's cleared. Because another thing with Vic, he's gonna, and with Cooper, we saw it. He's going to take some time because they're learning, and Jihad's got to learn a bunch of stuff. He's got to learn all ball linebacker. He's got to learn edge rusher. So how quickly is he comfortable throwing them out there? Now, desperation could change that timetable as well. Even though Eagles fans didn't like Avonte Maddox, they were very comfortable. The Eagles were very comfortable with Avonte Maddox as a veteran player who understood the job, understood the role, understood how to play. And now they don't have that type of player. It's more uncertainty. Very young Jalen Hunt, prove it lottery tickets, guys who haven't been here in Ojulari and Uche. 6th-round pick, if you want to go down to Antoine Powell-Ryland. They don't have that guy who's been, in the NFL, who's been doing it for a long time. So, that might speed it up. But, yeah, I mean, they think he's a playmaker and they want to get him on the field. And the easiest way to get him on the field, especially if Nakobe's healthy. Nakobe's healthy, so you have 2 moving parts.
Right.
It's easier to get him on the field as a rusher to start because you're only going to play 2 off-ball linebackers, and that's going to be Nakobe and Zach Bond. So it's easier to get him on the field as a rusher.
Right. Nakobe's actually kind of a big catalyst in this. It seems like.
Yeah, I mean, same thing though. We have to see when he's healthy. All good. I mean, he's been around. Everybody saw the backwards shot when they went to the Palestra.
Yeah.
He's not wearing a knee brace. He wasn't there. I told people that he wasn't wearing a knee brace at clean out day. Now that doesn't mean he's healthy, but I was shocked by it. And clearly he's not going to be doing anything in the rest of the spring. I doubt he'll be ready at the starters training camp. And, with Jihad, same thing. It's interesting. Both of those injuries, if you just look up, torn labrum, surgery, 6 to 12 months, which is ridiculous. But, the range, you would think an athlete would be closer to 6 months than 12 months, but that's all speculation. Same thing with a patellar, 6 to 12 months. It's like weird in almost the sense, but
right.
And Nakobe certainly seems early in the process, certainly seems to be heading in a positive direction.
Good stuff. We'll see how it all shakes out there. We got a couple of super chats we'll take on this topic, and then I do want to dive into the business of June 1. I know we talked about it a little bit, but I do want to ask John some questions in its own segment about what the moves that the Eagles could make, or if any at all. Jason 18 followed up on his big $50 super chat to start the show. Jason, thank you for the support. He says, it's obvious it's not a good thing, but Howie is one of the few GMs that are able to turn a bad decision and be able to pivot off of it. Thank God. I do agree with him big time on that.
Yeah, that's fair. But, a lot of people were giving him, look at Howie. Look at that. This is not one of Howie's proudest moments.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I will say Howie does have this weird tendency, though, John, when he makes a big miss somewhere, he overcorrects it to the point where it's like unbelievable. Like the wide receiver room, he drafts Jalen Reagor, and now we end up with the top 3 wide receiver room in football. Everybody's chirping him about running backs. He gets Saquon, Barkley. Chirping about linebacker, he ends up with Zach Bond, whether he wanted him or not. He does seem to have an ability to overcorrect.
Some of that circumstance. I mean, you bring up the linebacker thing.
Well, that was the most circumstance because
even he admits it. Yeah, he brought him in to be an edge rusher and special teams.
But Saquon, you could say he had the proper foresight on that to be able to see that.
Yeah, certainly that's one where he should get his flowers on, because he was one of the people at the forefront who turned the NFL into what it was when it came to running backs and devaluing running backs. He was one of the guys who fueled that. And then when everybody zigged with him, he zagged and he went back the other way. So he kind of okey doked everybody. So that's one where he deserves a ton of credit on, ton of credit. And wide receiver, yeah, I mean, that was a multi-year thing, and that was just more of, I don't know if we're because if you look at Devontae Smith, they would have drafted a corner if one of the corners drafted. So that was more of, all right, they had 4 guys they really liked. Devontae was the last one on the board, right, and they went up to go get him. And then, of course, AJ's just a good player. So, I mean, in general, because you're dealing with all.
Yeah, AJ's just a good player, but they didn't have to trade for him to draft after they took Devontae Smith. I mean,
they didn't have to.
It was like, I'm making wide receiver a strength on this football team.
But that to me was just a good evaluation as opposed to a bad evaluation, and willing to pay him the money on top of it, which turned out to be a bargain. But at the time, people were like, "Wow, look at the contract." So yeah, he deserves credit for that. But circumstances, a lot of it, because you're dealing with 31 other, especially in the draft. I mean, very rarely, unless you're picking number 1, very rarely are you going to get the player you really wanted. Very rare. And how well do you deal with that? And they did a very good job with Devontae.
Yep, no doubt about it. Let's go to the next super chat here. 2 more, then we'll get to our commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk June 1. We'll talk OTAs. We'll talk a little more Jahad Campbell, even some Tanner McKee talk. His name's out there a bunch right now. Tyler Conger checks in. What's up, Tyler? Good to see you, brother. Appreciate you being here. He says, morning, fellas. Making the trip from Vermont to the Link for Eagles-Rams for my first Birds game. I'm super pumped. Any suggestions on things to see and do while I'm there? Go Birds. Well, I'd say go to Angelo's and grab yourself a cheesesteak, and then get yourself some fine dining too, not just a cheesesteak. You got to get some good food too. Good.
You go to Skinny Joey's now. It's right down the street.
Yeah. I got Skinny Joey's. It was pretty good.
Did you?
It's pretty good. I don't want to say anything bad about it because I want to.
No, well, either I. I'm not planning on again. But when I go to the Novacare, I pass Skinny Joey's every day, and it's packed every day. And I'm like, I want to go, but I don't want to wait in that line.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't too bad. I went on a weekday, midday, and it wasn't too bad. But the line has been pretty big there, for sure. I like Angelo's a little more still. I'll say that. All right. I know they're beefing right now.
Well, Angelo's number 1. Angelo's going to get whacked, but I'm joking. Bradley Cooper.
I don't know, joking or not, we'll see. JH checks in. But John, any other suggestions for Tyler on Philly? I would recommend.
Well, I mean, the sports complex, for those who are coming from outside the area, there's not a ton of stuff down by there's obviously Xfinity Live, so there's a little bit.
Yeah, right. But get to Center City, get to the
you have to go out of the area if you want really stuff to do, because there's not if you just want to hang out at Xfinity Live, that's about it. Navy Yard's pretty cool. You can go down there. That's pretty close. But there's not a ton of stuff. It's basically the Wells Fargo Center, Lincoln Financial Field, across the street, Citizens Bank Park. So, it's just a big complex of sports buildings. So, but there's plenty to see, obviously, in Center City, and history-wise, everything-wise, restaurants, But, I would head down that way.
Yeah. Jim's on South Street. Zeal. That was one of my all-time favorite places to go growing up. Jim's on South, but it did burn down a couple of years ago. It's all back and good now, though. So that's a good spot as well if you get to South Street. But I recommend Center City. It's always cool. So it's a cool city. JH checks in. After this trade, how many picks do we have in 26? Feels like a lot.
I don't have it in front of me, but they have a lot. I think the number was 20 total over the next 2 years. But that, remember, it fluctuates depending on compensatory picks as well. But yeah, they'll be getting another pick. So that's one of the reasons why, that's good for future moves as well when you have to, sort of throw in draft picks. So to have more of them gives you just more, going to use a Sam Hinkie word, more optionality. And they have plenty of that over the next number of years. But let's see, they have their own first-round pick, own second-round pick. They got 3 third-round picks with the projected comp pick for Milton Williams. They got 2 fourth-round picks with the projected comp pick for Josh Sweat. They got 4 fifth-round picks with the projected comp pick for Mekhi Becton and their own 7th-round pick. I'm guessing this is another 5th-round pick. Which would make it 5. So yeah, they have plenty of draft picks.
Good stuff there, JH. Appreciate the super chat. Appreciate everybody being here. John, look at this big crowd, man, for a 10 a.m. edition of Birds 365. We thought, hey, maybe our viewership won't be as big because people are so used to us at 8, but we got plenty of people in here watching. We appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in to us daily. Here on Birds 365 all through the offseason. Hit that like button for us. It's the number one thing you can do to help us grow. And then also subscribe to the channel. Consider becoming a member if you want to financially support the show. That helps a lot, and we appreciate that. And then super chats as well help a lot. So we appreciate all of the great people for their support. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and I want you guys to pay attention in the commercial. The Wildwoods is back, and I know a lot of you guys love those spots. So Wildwoods is back to sponsor us for the summer, and we appreciate their support. So check out the stop set coming up. We'll be right back in 3 minutes, everybody.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Shot Takers and the Tastemakers. Welcome to the Viewfinders, the Thrill Seekers, and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We go the extra mile to lend a helping hand.
Thank you.
We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong. We've been deeply rooted in our communities for more than 85 years. And that connection to members has earned us our spot as the #1 health insurer in the region. So while you look out for your neighbors, know IBX is always looking out for you.
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Thrill Seekers and the Night Owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365, a special edition here from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern time. I had to push it back a couple of hours today. I hope everybody just saw our new spot from Wildwood. We got 2 of them, front and back of the stop set there. So make sure you guys get down to Wildwood. The Jersey Shore is beautiful in the summertime. And if you're in the area, get down to the Wildwoods. We appreciate them for being back this summer. One of our most enjoyed spots on the channel is the Wildwood spot. People sing that song all year long, and I know I do myself. So appreciate all of you guys being here. John, there's a little breaking news that just happened, and I'll say this. It's not really the John McMullen type of breaking news, but it is breaking. It is breaking news. Saquon Barkley has officially been announced as the cover of Madden. So look at this, everybody. I'll put it on the screen right now. You can see EA Sports just shared it out. It looks like the backwards hurdle. And Saquon Barkley really has become a superstar, John, since joining the Philadelphia Eagles. That's my takeaway from this. I know Madden is just a video game. Some people love it. Some people don't care for it. But it shows you he really became a superstar this year by joining the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously had a historic season. And the legend of Saquon is only growing from here, brother.
Yeah, he was always sort of superstar probably, but he's taken it to the next level with the season he had, and well deserved. I mean, the best rushing season in NFL history, which is crazy when you think about it. But and obviously things like the backward hurdle. I mean, he just. I always talk about it. It happened twice last year with Saquon and Vic Fangio. It's almost like, all right, they came in with these reputations. And when that happens, these lofty reputations and expectations, it rarely lives up to it because it's almost impossible. Like we said, we've already talked about it with Howie and Vic is like how you're not perfect. They're human beings. They're going to make mistakes and it's hard, but they both exceeded it, which is crazy. It just rarely happens. And to the level of exceeding it with Saquon, and the offensive line deserves a lot of credit. And he points that out all the time. But yeah, it was perfect. It was perfect. It's hard to imagine it going any better, which is part of the problem moving forward. It's like, can you repeat that?
Yeah,
how do you repeat that?
It's tough. There's no doubt because it was so unbelievable. But I'll say this. We got a lot of this in the chat, right? The Madden curse. The Madden curse. No. The Madden curse does not exist, everybody. Not in Philly and not for Saquon Barkley. I'm not buying that baloney for a single second. All right? There's no Madden curse.
Yeah, I'm not a curse guy. I'm not a superstitious.
There's no Madden curse, John. It's fake. Yeah. It's fake.
All right. Sports Illustrated cover jinx. It's all nonsense.
I will say this though, man. People
I'll tell you what is nonsense. Getting upset about Madden ratings. That's nonsense.
I think they use PFF now, brother. So maybe they're closer than they once were. I think so.
Good.
Yeah, I think they're using
every
PFF.
year. I lose my mind over that. And
Bryce Huff will be like a 95 if they use PFF.
To the point was, well, he's better than.
I'm just kidding.
Well, no, he's better than what fans would expect. That's true. But hey, for all the hate, like I said, PFF it's amusing because I just pointed out at the end of last week they ranked the rosters from 1 to 32, and the Eagles were number 1. I didn't hear a peep about PFF sucks. It's true. From Eagles fans.
Yeah, they did rate him the number 1. We'll talk about that a little bit. Yeah. But John, I will say this too. The other thing about the Saquon getting on Madden and stuff, it really, and I don't know, maybe this is just the Eagle fan. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like players have really become superstars playing in this city in the last couple of years, specifically in the Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts era. I mean, A.J. Brown, not that he wasn't a star before, but he came here, becomes a top 3 receiver in football. Saquon Barkley comes. Zach Bond, obviously earned a lot of that himself, but played unbelievable here. Chip Cooper DeJean is now like this huge guy. He's blown up with multiple millions of followers already. So it feels like Philly is a good place to play for those who want to become a star, John.
Well, I mean, when you win, that's what happens. And the Eagles have won. The Eagles have done a lot of winning. I mean, you think about it, and then on top of it, you have the fan base and the passion of the fan base. But I mean, and you have the large size of the market as well. But I mean, if you look at Kansas City's not a large market, but Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are superstars. You know why? Because they won a bunch. That's it'll happen to everybody. In the NBA, people are saying, well, how can you have Oklahoma City and Indiana, all the conspiracy theories? Well, they won Game 7. They won now, the Knicks lose. Knicks haven't won, by the way, since 1973. So all these conspiracy theories, or whenever it was, but all these conspiracy theories about, the league wants this, the league wants that. No, the best teams win. And it doesn't matter if you're in Indiana or Kansas City or Green Bay or Philadelphia. And if you win and you're a star, you're going to be a bigger star. And that's what's happening with Philadelphia. And then if you have the personality on top of it, like a Jason Kelce, then you can really shoot to some high levels. But yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons the disrespect. I always push back on it. I go, everybody loves the Eagles. Everybody. EA Sports, the NFL.
EA Sports. Hey, you're not wrong. KTP says 20 years since an Eagle has been on the cover of Madden. Can anybody guess, or does anybody know the last cover of Madden? John, do you know the last cover of Eagles?
I could care less about that.
I know what it was. Madden 2006, baby. Donovan McNabb, Johnny Mac.
Yeah. No. That's a stat only Jeff Kerr will give you. Jeff Kerr would have gotten that. Madden cover stats.
I know it. I pulled out the Jeff Kerr. We're supposed to have Jeff Kerr on Mondays. He's not with us because of our later show, but we'll talk to him later in the week. There you go. I went Jeff Kerr on everybody today. Madden 06, baby. Donovan McNabb. I'm sure there will be some people who will say Jalen Hurts is not the star of the team. Look at who they put on the cover of Madden. I'm not going to go down that road. But that's pretty cool that Saquon was on the cover of Madden. Let's dive into some on-the-field activities now, talking about the football team. They're all out at OTAs today, tomorrow, and Thursday. Johnny Mac will be in the building tomorrow. John, what are you setting up to see for tomorrow at OTAs? You do get a little bit more access than you did at like the rookie camp. So I know it's not much, but it's more than nothing.
No, we get to watch the whole practice, the whole OTA practice. So yeah, it's much more valuable than rookie camp. And you saw it last week when we gave you sort of the first incarnations of the depth charts. Again, they're going to be cautious with injured players. Guys are going to pop in and out. I did see Reed Blankenship because I was told Reed was dealing with a little bit of an injury, nothing serious, and he missed the OTA last week. But he was out in Iowa for Cooper's celebrity softball game, so he was, taking swings and hitting home runs. So he's got to be pretty healthy. But so it'll be interesting to see if he's back. Yeah, but and we'll see how quickly they look like they were trying to ramp up Drew Makuba pretty quickly and see how things sort of focus now on the defensive front now that you have the certainty of Bryce Huff not being there. It's a big opportunity for Azeez Ojulari, man. Big opportunity. And so he's got a chance to really impact things. And, that's one of the things when we talked about in the first segment. Well, are they going to go out and get somebody? If Azeez Ojulari shows he can play, then no. It's one of the luxuries you have of being on the field. And Josh Uche to a lesser extent as well. And now I think you have to start talking about Antoine Powell-Ryland as well as being on the back end of the roster.
Wow.
So, a lot of opportunities for players, for younger players on this defense, especially. I don't know.
I hate to say this, but you're not wrong. Where like if you're Azeez Ojulari, you certainly see that and say, man, they have faith in me, or they believe in me, or they're putting the onus on me to perform. Why do I have such a hard time believing that's the Eagles' goal? Why do I have such a hard time believing that they got rid of Bryce Huff and now they're confident in Jalix and Azeez and Uche? Are they going to add an edge? I think they're going to add an edge here. I mean, Dabney says we're going to have a top 5 edge group in the league.
Well, I mean, look, you can say that, and guess what? Dominique can say that today, and if it happens, he can spike the football. And if it doesn't happen, which is more likely, no one will remember. So it's easy to say stuff like that. Now, if you're projecting literally and you believe that the team is going to have a top 5 edge rushing group, there's nothing to back that up empirically, statistically. So it's more of hope than anything else. But yeah, obviously fans are going to be optimistic. There's a lot of good edge rushers in the end.
Yeah, plenty of them. John, post June 1 now, what's it mean for the Birds? All right, now they got Slay, Bradbury off the books. You talked about that at the open of the show. For those who were not here, just re-clarify what that exactly means. And what are your expectations? Do you think they make a move? Maybe it's not at edge rusher, but we are at that demarcation line of the NFL where you kind of cross over after that June 1. There's a lot of teams use that June 1 deadline to move cap and all sorts of different things around and adjust the roster and basically play games within, the rules that they have. What's it mean post June 1 now for the Philadelphia Eagles? What's to come in the next couple of weeks?
Well, I think more of what's to come has to do with how the young players perform. And specifically, I'm talking about defense, and we've talked about it a lot at edge, but also safety. The Justin Simmons name is out there. There's a more obvious answer at safety than edge rusher on the veteran free agent market. That has to do with how Makuba looks, to be honest, and how quickly Vic assesses, all right, and to a certain extent, Sidney Brown as well, but how quickly does Vic, make the assessment, all right, this guy can help right away. And if the answer is negative, maybe Justin Simmons is here, but there's no planned monster trade, if that's what people are thinking. Now, again, if Trey Hendrickson says, I'm not going to play for $17 million for Cincinnati, but I'll play for $17 million for the Philadelphia Eagles to go chase a Super Bowl. And the Eagles are willing to give up pretty significant draft asset.
For a 1-year deal, though. Because you could argue, Trey'd be trying out, too, for his next contract, coming to a better team to do it.
Yeah, and then hopefully winning a Super Bowl and getting 10+ sacks, which he always does. With him, it's more about, is he going to get 15 or more?
I don't know. Why would he want to come to Philly? I feel like the defense in Philly is not conducive to edge rushers.
Well, that too. I was going to
stats and getting a big deal.
I was going to bring that up as well, which is the whole point of it. Is it's very unlikely, very unlikely. He's holding out. He's not holding out, but he's having an issues in Cincinnati because he's underpaid. I find it very hard to believe he's going to stay underpaid and leave. But again, if things get to the ugliest point and he threatens to sit out and all that kind of stuff, it's it's potentially good to go to a Super Bowl team, potential Super Bowl team, and excel there. But again, he's a pass rusher. He's a wide 9 guy. He's not dropping in the flats. He's not covering people. He's not the best at setting the edge. So again, is the fit even something that would work? My answer would be no, probably not. But just the money alone, you rarely need to get past the money and even talk about the fit. The money alone is not going to be there for the Eagles, and unless you can convince Trey Hendrickson or something, and TJ Watt even more so. TJ Watt's not playing for. I mean, plus they're over 30. More people got to adopt Dominic Dabney's optimism and roll with the young guys and can't have it both ways. You love Vic and then you don't believe in Vic to develop the young players. See if he develops the young players.
I think Jalen Hunt could be really good this year.
Yeah, we're gonna see. He's gonna have plenty of opportunities. Plenty of opportunities. And he's getting better every day. The knock on Jalen Hunt was he was so raw and the technique. And not only does he get to learn from Vic Fangio and Jeremiah Washburn, he gets to learn from Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata every single day. You could ramp up that technique pretty quickly. And there's very little questions about his physical gifts. So would I want a Jadeveon Clowney or Jalen? I'll take Jalen Hunt over Jadeveon. I'm not saying he's better. I'm saying.
But you'll take the chance.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Gonna have to find that sweet spot. Where is that sweet spot? We'll see what they end up doing there. But post June 1, that's where we are. John, I know you gave the numbers, but Eagles are really, I don't know how much cap space they have available right now this year. I see people saying it's near 30 million. I don't know if that's true or it's not true. Do you have the numbers on that?
I mean, they're not official until everything's filed. It's about 25 right now. It'll go up to 27, 28. With Bryce Huff when that deal goes through. So it's right about there, projected. Again, not official, but projected. And that's the top 51. So yeah, 27-ish, I would say, right now. But that's not like a boat. That's not all about right now. If people can't understand that about the Eagles, like you got to put Jalen Carter in the equation. You got to put Nolan, even though it's not going to happen this year. Eagles want to save some of this money, save some of the cash more than anything else, roll it over in the next year. So you got to keep that in mind. It's not always about the moment. It just isn't.
We'll see what ends up happening with the cap space this year. Howie Roseman going into the season, trying to repeat as Super Bowl champions over the Philadelphia Eagles. It's an uphill battle to do that for every team. John, we talked about Jahad Campbell a little bit earlier in the show. I want to go to Tanner McKee. His name is popping up everywhere, John. I think it's post June 1, and everybody loves to dream of trading away the backup quarterback. I don't know why people love to dream of this, but people do. I'm seeing NBC articles. I'm seeing all sorts of articles. What do you think Tanner McKee's trade value is right now in the open market?
Not to where the Eagles would trade him. Which Tanner McKee has not done anything. So, I mean, if you want to focus on Kellen Moore, which it's possible that Kellen fell in love with him while he was here, and he's got a bad quarterback situation, which I brought up after Derek Carr retired. And And would he have more confidence in Tanner McKee than Tyler Shuck? Is that
He
his
might.
name?
Yeah, Tyler Shuck.
Yeah. I don't think he does.
I don't know. I think he might.
Yeah, I don't you don't draft somebody in the second round without.
Was Shuck second round or third? He was second round. Yeah, he was second round.
And I heard a lot of NFL people rave about that guy. Just his arm talent. But if he does, because he was here, and I know everybody's going to, well, he was here, blah, blah, blah. And he offered you a second round pick because it's Mickey Loomis, and Mickey's an idiot.
Howie's done the Mickey many times.
Yeah, I take advantage of it, but I think that's not going to happen, to put it mildly. So, if he gets to play a little bit next year and he performs well, then maybe you're in a situation where you can spin him off. And by that point, you would want to spin him off maybe because long term they want Kyle McCord to be the backup quarterback. And by long term, I mean 3 years until they spin him off. So that's the goal. And right now it's Tanner's time to be the backup. And if he gets a chance and they can spin him off, great. If not, they have 2 more years of cost-effective backup quarterback play. And then you make the transition to McCord, and you have 2 more years of McCord. And that's how they've set it up. But the question is he good enough if you need to go win a game? And I don't think anybody knows. How would you know? Because of a preseason game?
I don't know what the infatuation with it is, John. There's always infatuation with backup quarterbacks. I'm with you. I don't think they trade him at all. But we'll see what they end up doing, or if they end up moving him. I don't think it would come to be this year. But John's right. I mean, if you can move him by next year, and then you have 3 years of Kyle McCord, who I think is going to be a capable backup quarterback, I think he could be in a good spot. Let's go to some super chats here on the show. We appreciate all the super chats today. As always, thank you all for supporting the show, helping keep us on the air. Obviously, we're in June, and you all know it's not football season. All right, so your guys' support.
It's always football season.
Goes a long way, though, supporting the channel at this time of the year. So we do appreciate each and every one of you for watching. The super chats, the memberships, all this stuff goes a long way. Fly Eagles Fly says, Wildwood days. There you go. I love it. Wildwood days. The spot is back. B-Mac checks in. Love the show. Appreciate you guys. Great work. I tune in each day while delivering FedEx packages. Go Bird. I love it. Gotta love the FedEx package. Gotta love the FedEx, the UPS, the post office, all the delivery drivers out there, Johnny Mac, with a lot of packages get ordered nowadays.
Yes, they do. I always thank my driver too.
Yep.
Especially at this house. Yep. Not from me. I order no packages, but yet packages arrive every day.
Yeah,
so
that's
do the math.
Jason, that's every house, and it seems to be not the men in every house, although I might be calling bullshit on some of you men out there. Jason Gates checks in. I understand we can't get Hendrickson or Water, so what other big-time edges available, or do we just go with what we got? Go Birds. That's Jason Gates, $5. Thank you, Jason.
No, yeah, I mean, big names. Jadeveon Clowney's one, but yeah, I mean, it's June. This is not the time where high-profile guys are available. The only reason we talk about Hendrickson is he's dealing with a contract issue. TJ Watt staying away from Pittsburgh, hoping to get a new contract. Yeah, there's not a lot at this time of the year. And they have a bunch of developmental guys that could turn into something. So I think that's their philosophy is our coaches will develop them. I think that's the hope. Hope it's not a strategy, though. So Vic comes back after the spring and says, Jalix isn't ready. Aziz isn't that good. Then Howie's got to look at other avenues.
Yep. I just don't see many other avenues that are out there. And I mean, now look, maybe Howie could come up with one, John. You talked about a couple earlier, some unconventional options that might be out there that we're not thinking about, but we will see. B-Mac checks in. Again, play the young guys. So B-Mac is calling for a playing of the young guys, which we got one of the youngest rosters in the NFL, dude. We're playing a lot of young guys. My question is, where do you go too far with the young guys? That's my question.
Well, coming off last year, they're probably bolstered, if anything, to play more young guys because it worked out so well last year.
Yeah, so much, so much contribution from the young guys.
Yeah. And Quinyon and Cooper, which is part of the reason they think that some of the young guys this year are going to step up. And I don't know. Doesn't happen a lot. So you start playing the odds and say, maybe you need a little bit more veteran leadership and maybe that's why Dory Jackson is here and players like that. But we'll see how it shakes out. But there's a chance for a lot of young players to play on defense. Obviously, not the offense is set, but on defense, a lot of opportunities for young players.
Tons. Are they too young in your opinion, John? They are really young defense, dude. I think the oldest player on defense is Zach Bond. He's 28.
Yeah, it's when you think about what they lost too, people think, well, they were young last year. Yeah, but they had Slay, they had Brandon.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I'd be more comfortable if Slay and Brandon were here still.
Yeah. Am I right though? Is that the oldest player even on the bench? Is Zach Bond at 28?
I'd have to think about it, but Dory,
I'm going through it in my head right now. I can't think of anybody.
How old's Dory? How old's Dory?
Dory might be. There you go. That might be the one. Might be a Dory.
20. He's 29. Yeah.
There you go.
A little bit older, but yeah. I mean, it's a lot of youth on defense.
Tons of youth. We'll see how it plays out. Rashid Mixon checks in. What's up, Rashid? Good to see you, brother. Hope you had a good weekend. Appreciate you being here. Rashid was here like 8 a.m., John. He was like, where are you guys? What's going on? You guys switched it up on me. Here he is. Still here with us. We appreciate you, Rashid. Hey, fellas, will Cooper be eligible for an extension next year along with Nolan and Carter, being as though Coop only had 4 years and will be going in his third? I think it'd be after that third season, right?
No, yeah, it's after the third season. Anybody who's drafted, it's after the third season. Doesn't matter. The first round picks have a 50-year option, but team option. But everybody after the third season, if you get drafted. So he and Quinyon are up after the 2026 season.
All right. Well, we're going to have to do this real quick because Carter, Nolan, Quinyon, Cooper and Quinyon will be a year after Carter and Nolan. Ajomo is going to come up. Dean is going to come up. Blankenship is going to come up.
Well, Blankenship's already up. He can be extended.
All right, so I'm just talking about guys that would be now or in the next 1-2 years that aren't already under contract. And for just lack of anybody else that I'm not thinking of right now, Jalen Carter, slam dunk, right? He'll be re-signed.
Yeah.
Yes, done. Both agree. Nolan Smith, you think he'll be re-signed when his time comes?
Heavily pointing to yes, but not 100%.
Quinyon Mitchell, heavily pointing to re-signed?
Yes.
Yep, me too. Cooper DeJean, I'm going to say Cooper DeJean's a slam dunk for me.
Yeah, the problem is, where is he playing? But yes, I would say slam dunk.
I don't think they're letting him leave. More with Jomo.
It depends on this year, but trends are positive on Morrow. But definitely, he's got a chance to make a lot of money with a good season.
Yeah, I think in another place, I don't see how you pay more with Jomo, so I'm going to go X there. Nakobe Dean.
No, I don't think he's.
John's going X. I'm going X as well. I just think it's a numbers game. And then Blankenship.
Yeah, Blankenship's going to get done.
I think so too.
This year, I would say before week 1.
John, the
He
fabric
might be the
of
Jordan Mailata Eve of week 1 extension.
right. John, the fabric of this football team will have to change in order for all those guys to get under contract. Nolan, Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell.
Don't forget
Cooper
Jalen
DeJean.
Hunt. If you're talking about,
There you go.
if you're going all the way to Quinyon and Cooper's year, Jalix will be up that year as well. So, and if B starts playing well,
Yeah,
hey,
I'd say yes for him.
the burden of good players, and that's why Nakobe. I love Nakobe as a player, but the injuries and the realization of where you are, you can't keep everybody.
I mean, you're not going to be able to pay $200 million on offense with that many defensive guys getting under contract. There's 0% chance.
What if Moro Ojomo breaks out?
He's gone. You can't be. How are you going to pay him?
Well, you got the
guys?
4th year like Milton, so you still have 2 more years. But
2 more years, right?
If he breaks out this year, boy, he's putting himself in a good position. Whether it's here,
he has a
somewhere
chance
else.
to break out a year before Milton did, right? I mean, he's got a bigger role in this defense than what Milton had year 3.
Yeah, well, depends. We'll see how it shapes. Milton had a big role, but Fletcher was still here, so it wasn't as big. But yeah, I mean, too many good players.
Yeah,
First
I mean,
world
it is a good problem to have, but it's a problem.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Nolan Smith though from that group. He is the most interesting one to me. Like J-Lux, I feel like can easily play his way. I think they would pay that player. Jalen Carter, I don't think that's even requires any brain use. Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper, I kind of feel the same, more so about Cooper. They're not letting Cooper walk out the door, in my opinion. Nolan Smith, though, John, will be eligible after the next season. Now, he was a first-round pick, so you do have that 5th-year option. I'm sure they will end up using that. But a lot of injuries, productive player, hasn't quite taken the stride fully. If he does or he gets halfway there, do you want to pay him $25 million, $28 million, $30 million? Where's the number go? To me, Nolan Smith is the most interesting of the upcoming contracts on defense. Do you agree with that? And if you do or don't, tell me why and what you think of that contract.
No, I mean, it's interesting. Like, if he continues to play this season, if he plays for 17 games this season, like he played for 9 games at the end of last season, he's going to have 15 sacks and he's going to make well over $30 million a year. And then it becomes, how do you fit everything in? You know, they're going to bring him back in that instance, but because they value the position, we're just talking about the struggles they have right now. At that point, you have a proven commodity, and the Eagles' history is they're going to pay a player like that top of the market money. So it's almost like, can you get 9 and play effectively? And maybe save us a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Now I say that kind of jokingly. It's not how the Eagles want it to go. They want him to play well, but it does create problems if he plays really well, because that is a position you will get paid at.
Yes. Like Jalen Carter, though, like he's going to play amazing, and we know he's going to get the 35, 36, whatever it is at that time.
Would
the
you
Eagles
pay
aren't going to
Nolan Smith $30 million?
Yeah, that's where I'm going. I don't think I would. I'm not going to lie to you. I love the player and everything, but with the injuries, with the size, with some of the limitations, with some of the other things you're going to have to pay, I don't know if the Eagles would pay him $30 million.
Well, I'll tell you, he sets the edge. He's undersized, but he does what Vic wants. He can drop, and he's not a fish out of water. He's a perfect Vic Fangio player. Nobody talks about that.
He is. It's very true.
He's much more physical than his size would indicate. Now, I have concerns about his size from injury perspective. And doesn't have a ton of injury. Well, he had an injury at Georgia. And he tore his triceps in the Super Bowl. But my point is, if he tears his tricep in week 9, your season's over.
Right.
So, 235-pound guy pushing and pulling against Lane Johnson size people every week. That's my concern with the injury part of it. But he's a perfect Vic Fangio player. Perfect.
Would you pay him $30 million?
Coming off a 15 sack season? Yeah, I have to.
Is that likely though?
Well, I mean, who else, Is
Well,
it
last year they won a
likely?
Super Bowl.
I never
won a Super Bowl and had the number 1 defense in football, and their top sack guy had 8.5 sacks.
Yeah, but
you don't need.
But what did he have over the final 9-10 games?
I know he had 4.5 in the playoffs.
Like projected, I think it was 10. Like projected over a full season, he's in that range. Now, I never predict anyone, unless you're PJ Watt or Myles Garrett or Trey Hendrickson. I never project 15 sacks for anybody. That's a big number. But does he have the potential to reach that number? Sure. That is a big number, but he was on pace for it. When after Brandon's injury, when he got the uptick in playing time, from that point forward, he was on pace to be a 15 sack guy over a full season. So if he can keep that going, yeah, he's a $30 million player. It's not even a question. Now, can he do that? I have a lot of questions. I don't know if he can do that, but that's the way he was playing down the stretch last season.
I just don't know if he definitely did. He definitely did have a really good end of the year last year. I'd have to look at exactly what and look at exactly how many he had, but I know he had a lot of games with a sack. He had a sack in all the 2 sacks in the first playoff game versus Green Bay, a sack in the playoff in the NFC title game versus Washington, a sack in the Ram playoff game, a sack in the December Washington game, Pittsburgh game, Baltimore.
By the way, now that I'm talking about sacks, I hate that I'm talking about sacks because it is, way too blown up out of proportion. But that's the reality is that's how guys get paid. That's the guys they pay. And he had 10.5 sacks last season if you include the playoffs.
Yeah. He's gonna be a tough evaluation, Nolan Smith, for the contract. If I forced you to project it right now, what do you think he would get on the contract? 30? Is that what you think?
Well, again, that's after another great season. It doesn't have to be 15, but if he's 12, 13, whatever, he's a $30 million player. Because remember, the cap keeps going up. Cap's going up again. So you have to factor that in as well. So the numbers keep rising. But yeah, if he has a full, and with the Eagles, 17 is going to turn into 20 or 21 again, potentially. If he goes through a full season with that type of production, easily 30 million.
Let's say he goes through the full season, does everything well like he has in the Vic Fangio defense, but he's 8.5 sacks. What are you giving him?
20, 25, and hope to get him for 23, something in that range.
Right. I agree. That's about what I was thinking.
But I think he's a perfect fit for Vic's defense. Perfect.
Yeah, he does do everything well, but I'm with you on the wear and tear. How much can he last there? That'll be interesting to see. Let's go to Blankenship, John. He's an interesting one because he's kind of due right now. Like he's ready to be paid. And you think they're going to pay him, right?
Well, I think they're going to get a good deal for Reed. Team friendly deal.
Good deal meaning 10 mil?
Yeah, that he's difficult because he's undrafted. Like if he were a 3rd round pick and he played the way he played, I would say yes, easily. I haven't looked at the safety market, but I'll look at it now. But I would say easily. But man, that's tough for those guys to overcome. The undrafted tag, as unfair as it is, and that generally keeps them down a little bit. So it's going to be interesting, but there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, count 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's only 19 safeties in the NFL at $10 million per year. That's it. Can the Eagles get him at Chauncey CJ money? Just a little bit under?
Is he a top 19 safety in your opinion? I think he is.
Yes, he is. It's completely unfair. I think they'll try to get him at CJ level money.
8 million? Is that 8? 8.5?
8.5, somewhere in that range.
Luffy says 7 a year max.
Yeah, and I guarantee you, Luffy is lumping it. Oh, he's undrafted. I guarantee it. You know what? If he's a third, forget about a first round pick. If he's a third round pick, if he's a fourth round pick, and he plays the way he played, easily $10 million player. Easily.
I think he's worth it. I think he's a glue guy too. I think he manages the back end very well.
The Eagles are smart. They'll take advantage of they'll take advantage of it. And they should. It's unfair, but they should. But I think it'll be very team friendly.
Something's got to give here, John. Something's got to give, because I'm looking at this defense, and I know we got some years on this. It's not like it's a right now thing, but something has to change on the offense, and I don't see where exactly that is right now in order to pay all these guys on defense. Right now, we survived and thrived with the number 1 overall defense with a lot of guys not making big money. All right, Zach Baum wasn't making big money. Jalen Carter was on a rookie deal. Josh Sweat took a haircut last year. I mean, Brandon Graham was at near the end. Nobody was really paid big money last year on defense. Darius Slay, maybe. I think he got 12 or whatever he was making. I mean, all these guys getting paid on defense, what gives? Who goes on offense? Or does it simply get eaten up by the cap increases, which I think they're going to start to try and stop?
No, they've already made some difficult decisions with trading CJ, and and they're going to, N'Kobe would be the most obvious, but obviously losing Josh and not being able to play Pave Milton, they've already made some significant decisions, and they will continue. And they will tilt to the offensive side of the ball. They almost didn't work things out with Dallas. They were this close to losing Dallas. Yeah, I mean, Dallas is going to be
pick
gone.
up some room there. I agree. I don't think Dallas is here next year.
It's going to be, very difficult to move on from anybody else, but the reality of Saquon in his position is that's going to turn over relatively quickly, right. Unfortunately, especially if he keeps touching it 400 times a year. That's going to turn over probably in 2 years. Lane's going to turn over in, I hate to say 2 years or 3 years, but it's going to happen.
Got it, right? I mean, Father Time waits for nobody, but he seems to be just playing so damn good at his age.
Landon's still young. Cam's still young. Jordan's still young. Jalen's still young. AJ, Devontae. So it's not quite as malleable on offense. But, I mean, things happen quickly in the NFL. What if AJ gets in more social media angst, and all of a sudden things can happen quickly? I'll just say that.
Do you think AJ Brown will finish his career in Philly?
No.
Do you
No.
think Devontae Smith will finish his career in Philly?
Better chance. You know, it depends. The Eagles have proven that if you play at a high level, you know, Brandon, Fletcher, Lane, they're gonna do good by you even late in your career if you want to keep playing. So I would say a better opportunity, but you got to keep playing at a really high level. And the only wide receiver is a position where you tend to have attrition from a physical standpoint. You can't be the same player, and it's very difficult. Like you can play longer on the offensive line at a high level than you can at wide receiver. So I would say there's a good chance, but you know, if the attrition starts and they want to go in a different direction.
Yeah. Devontae's tough because he's on such a team-friendly deal. People don't remember that.
Well, they all are.
You're not getting a guy who's
Jalen's
close
on a
to
team
that
friendly.
type of.
The Eagles,
well,
I've said it probably a dozen times on this show, and I continue to say it. I can't tell you the last bad contract the Eagles signed.
Do you think Jalen Hurts will finish his career in Philly?
Probably, but that
was a fence ride right there, John.
Well, because the Eagles are one of the few teams that it's even a consideration. Most teams, you know, think about it. Aaron Rodgers didn't finish his career in Green Bay. I mean,
Brady didn't finish his career in New England.
I mean, the Eagles are one of the few teams that's even a consideration in the free agency world. You know, at some point, does it hit that level where he's still a good player, but he's not a great player, and the Eagles want to go in a different direction and get younger, and then he goes and plays somewhere else? I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
But where it's easier for offensive linemen to do it, and it's easier for defensive linemen to do it. As Fletcher has proven, as Brandon has proven, as Lane has proven. But even Jason Peters left because he wanted to keep playing. Could have retired, but here, if he wanted to. But he wanted to keep playing. So it's very difficult to do. And it's more difficult to do at wide receiver, especially in running back, really especially. You know, there's less of there's more of a fall off from a physical standpoint that you can't mask. Like Lane Johnson's not the same physically as he was when he was 28, but he's savvy as shit. And he keeps getting stronger, and he tells you himself, it's like, you know, these things make up for what I've lost to a certain degree from an athleticism standpoint, which happens to everybody. So
a lot of interesting things coming up in the contracts and when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. Curious to see how it all shakes out. Let's get to our super chats here. We got about 15 minutes left on this Monday edition of Birds 365. We appreciate all of you guys being here on a different time slot today. We'll be back in our 8 a.m. time slot tomorrow morning, and OTAs are tomorrow as well for John, open to reporters. So John will be down there, not open to the public. Rashid Mixon checks in. Z Smith, Zadarius Smith, M. Judon, Matthew Judon, V. Miller, Von Miller, Shaq Barrett, and who's that? Carl Lawson, I think. Which edge available will be the best fit among those free agents available? And not a great list.
Yeah.
I mean, gotta look good, but a lot of guys passed their prime.
Which edge available? None of the above. Jalix Hunt. Seriously, I don't think any of those players are fit for Von Miller, I guess, because he knows how to play that group, but I wouldn't want any of them.
Zadarius Smith, his name seems to be everywhere.
Well, Zadarius has some, like, he can play inside. He's got some movement skills, but he can't drop into coverage, or he's not a very good run defender. Vic likes well-rounded players.
3 down guys. That's where I wonder about Jordan Davis, John.
It's not about 3 downs. It's about, because that's not his role.
Versatility, though.
Edge defender's role is set the edge, rush the passer, and be a flat defender. Like, that's the role. Jordan Davis is 2 down run stuffer. That's the role. But Vaughn knows how to play. So there's probably nobody that knows how to play edge on the planet better than Von Miller. So I would say of that group. And he could probably get out of bed at 38 and rush the passer better than 90% of NFL
99%
players.
of the world. Yeah. 90% of NFL players, 99.9% of the world, obviously. Kimberly Sirico, $5. Thank you, Kimberly. Would like a vet in defense, but good thing about Howie is he never hits the panic button. Let's see what we have first. Well, you wait too long, you might end up with a situation like Kevin Byard, or who's the guy we traded from the Bears a couple of years ago? Robert Quinn. I don't know about that, Kimberly. Like John said earlier, I like that quote. They're not God.
No, well, they do make mistakes, but they don't sign bad contracts, though. But they do make mistakes in evaluation, as everybody does. And that's just part of it. That's baked into it. Everybody knows it. There's a great interview with Eric DeCosta talking about this study that was done about the draft and about how everybody drafts basically the same, from a standpoint of about 50% you're going to hit, you're going to miss. And everybody thinks they're better than they are. And it's basically about the loser mentality of drafting at the top of the draft versus the idea of accumulating more picks, because the more picks you have, the more lottery tickets have, the more likely you're going to hit on somebody. And if you look at it long term, having more picks is a better advantage in taking them, not just having them. Like the Eagles have a ton of picks. It'll increase your odds of getting good players. Now, and there's context. So obviously, if you're at the top of the draft and there's a Myles Garrett level talent, you're in a good spot to get a good player. But yeah, the idea that teams draft better than other teams is not really borne out by the data. So the idea is to get as many swings at bat as possible. And yeah, they're not gods.
Mickey Bibb checks in. John, possible for Howie to pay the edge less than market given Vic's desired edge archetype? It's an interesting question.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not like Vic is adverse to. He had Khalil Mack. He's not adverse to having 18 sack guys.
Right. Just because he's thrived without him last year doesn't mean he would always choose that.
So no, I think, and maybe I didn't explain that correctly, but he wants versatile guys, but he wants guys who can get to the passer. And if he can get Khalil Mack in his prime, he'll take Khalil Mack in his prime.
Right.
So it's not about his archetype being, because Khalil Mack was the best defensive player in football under Vic Fangio for a while. So, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily think he wants lesser pass rushers.
James M checks in. He says, I don't think it's a stretch to consider Hurts being moved for a cheaper, more talented quarterback.
Oh, boy. That's James M coming in with a bomb at the end of the show.
A literal bomb. This is a whole show topic, right?
No,
right
I do not think that is in the equation from the Eagles' perspective. at all. No. First of
No,
all, where are you getting this
John's
magical? Where are you getting this magical, cheaper,
more
talented?
talent? Yeah, that's pie in the sky.
Yeah,
Fredo checks in. Good, then finish up.
But it's interesting when PFF, I will bring up, and this is the nonsense of this discussion this offseason. When PFF, which graded the Eagles having the top roster in football, so number one overall, they labeled the biggest strength the defense, obviously. Number one, they were number one in pass coverage, number two in pass rushing, number one defense. Biggest weakness, passing game. Passing game, which most of that burden, this is them talking, fell on quarterback Jalen Hurts, who ranked 23rd among qualifiers in PFF passing grade despite an outstanding final 2 games of the season. The biggest drop-off came in the drop-back game where Hurts posted a 64.6 non-play action passing game, which was tied for 27th in the NFL. Over, which I've been saying for how long? Over 21 games. He did not have a great season by his own standard. The final 2 games did not change that. But no, to James's question, no. They're not finding a cheaper, more talented quarterback.
Nope. Fredo checks in. Makuba in the slot, sign Simmons and Cooper outside. Take my money.
Not a bad
Fredo,
plan.
sounds like you should have been at DC, brother.
Not a bad
not bad.
plan. But, Makuba played some slot in college, so it's not
defense
like
is better like that than it is right now. No, and it also cost you is whatever Simmons cost.
Well, I think Justin Simmons is the problem there. He's a descending player, but he's got a big name, and people think they're getting a 4-time All-Pro. And he's not going to be a 4-time All-Pro next year in Philadelphia. He's going to be 32 in November. He didn't play well last season. Now he does know Vic's defense. And he'll probably play better under Vic than he did in Atlanta last season. But he's not the player that you think he is any longer. Things move quickly in the NFL. But as far as Cooper on the outside, it's not if, it's when. It's not if, it's when. At some point, they got to do it. So,
I agree.
Makuba, if Makuba can play in the slot and Sidney Brown can play at safety, there's your best case scenario. There's your best case scenario.
There you go. Jeff Bone says Pacers or Thunder. I think I'm going Thunder here, John. What do you think?
I can't lose this one because I think both these teams built in an unconventional way and can stop all the freaking hanky losers. Oh, you got to draft the best player. I'm going to go Pacers because they're deeper and they're more athletic. Although obviously Oklahoma City has the best player, but I think the Pacers are deeper. And if they play like they played against the Knicks, I think they'll win in 7, even though it's on the road.
Good stuff there. Appreciate all the super chats today. John, one last note before we get out of here. I'll get your final thoughts, but I do want to tell you this. You just said Madden ratings are stupid. Well, Saquon Barkley is the first ever Eagle offensive player to join the 99 club, John. They got him in a big bling 99 chain.
Of all the I'm sure
he's wearing his Pine Valley golf hat.
Of all the accolades, I'm glad Saquon got his 99. Yeah. I don't care. Well, they can't be using PFF grades then. So
Maybe they're not. Maybe that was fake news. I saw somebody say that. But anyway, good stuff. Johnny Mac, a couple minutes left on the show, man. 10 to 12 today. It was an interesting time, but it was not bad for us. We appreciate everybody checking in here for a different time slot. Today had some things that we had to do to knock it back a couple of hours, but it was a good show. We had great viewership. Johnny Mac, your final thoughts on this Monday edition as we kick off week 2 of OTAs.
There you have it, Mr. 99. So congratulations. Another accolade for Saquon Barkley. I wonder if that's more important than the Lombardi Trophy. Probably not, but who knows? With young people today, maybe Madden rating is more important than the Lombardi Trophy.
Well, that's a big one. It's a big one. And we wrap up the Bryce Huff trade as well. That was good conversation as well today. Johnny Mac, great stuff as always, brother. What's the schedule now? So tomorrow you're going to be down there for...
Most likely. I still don't have the schedule. I presume it will be here by 2 or 3 o'clock.
And then they're out there for tomorrow, and then Thursday they're off. Wednesday they got the charity event that John talked about, and then off Friday as well. So good stuff there. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. We'll talk to you tomorrow back in our normal time spot at 8 a.m. See you tomorrow morning, Johnny Mac.
All right, thanks, everybody.
All right, there's Johnny Mac. John McMullen joining us here on a special edition of Birds 365, a 10 to 12 edition. Had to push it back a little bit. John had some things going on in his house, so we moved it back to 10 to 12 a.m. today. I didn't mind it. I didn't dislike this time. Not a bad time to do the show, but I don't think we would never be able to make it this time permanently because, like tomorrow, John's going to OTAs. He's got to leave right after the show at 10 a.m. So wouldn't always be this time, but it's not a bad summertime slot for when we do have some free days. But we appreciate you all being here today. We had some great super chats today. Big shout out to Saquon Barkley, man, for 99 Club. I know John doesn't care about that stuff, but it is dope. I mean, it's a cool accolade. I know, John, actually that stuff doesn't matter, but that's how you become a superstar. Kids play Madden. Adults play Madden. Those are the type of things that, really build who you are and build the brand of who you are as a player and an athlete. So I think it's well-deserved. I think it's a big accolade for him, and I think it's pretty cool. By the way, I mentioned he was wearing the Pine Valley hat. Look at that. Saquon in the Pine Valley hat. For those who don't know, Pine Valley is probably the nicest golf club you can join in the world. It's harder to get into Pine Valley than Augusta National, they say. So Saquon's in there. In there like swimwear, baby, for Saquon Barkley. Pretty good. Pretty good. I'll take a couple of comments before we get out of Dodge here on this Monday edition of Birds 365. A lot of good talk. I'll tell you what, those defensive contracts, that conversation about the defensive contracts, there's going to be a lot more legs to that than we think. I mean, I just jotted down some numbers when we were doing that. I got Carter, $35 million. Nolan, $25 to $30 million. Quinyon, $30 million. Cooper DeJean, $25 million. Blankenship, I put $10 million. Then you have Dean, you have Jalen, you have Ajomo. Those guys are probably gone. Jalen will probably be back, but he's far out still. That's a lot of contracts to pay on defense, man. Something's got to give. We'll see what it is. We'll see what it is. All right. Chris Scott says Pine Valley Golf Course, 5 minutes from my house. Nice. Nice. Chris Scott, Jersey dude. Love it. Nothing better than a raging J-Mac. I think he has more rage in the morning. I think he's got more rage between 8 to 10 than he does from 10 to 12, But anyway, good show today. I appreciate all of you guys being here. It was quiet till showtime. Now it's lunchtime. Yeah, we're normally here at 8 a.m. I saw all you guys in the chat 8 a.m. That was pretty cool. But we were on at 10, and you guys joined us then too. So we appreciate all you guys. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Thought we had a great show here on a Monday to kick off the week. OTAs tomorrow. John will be down there. So a lot of good stuff happening in Eagle Land. I think the mandatory minicamp, I want to say it's June 10th. So that's next Tuesday? Yeah, next Tuesday. So that's the mandatory day. So we'll be able to talk about that. Bryce Huff gone officially. That's good stuff. Appreciate all you guys. Hit that like button for us on the way out. And again, I mentioned the support you guys give goes a very long way. So I do appreciate it. We're in the off season here. So it's just not football season. There's not as much money coming, all those different things with the business. So your guys' support, the super chats, the memberships, they go a very long way, especially right now. So thank you all so much for that support. Probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. So we do appreciate that. I hope you know that, and I hope you are aware of that. I just want to thank you and appreciate you for that. So thank you all so much. And I'll see you next time, tomorrow on Birds 365, 2 hours from now, the National Football Show. See you then, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan. You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.